Welcome to the January Donovan Show. Today, my guest is Tina Griffith, and she's an ex-Hollywood actress turned pretty much a pioneer in counterculture movement to help moms or children fight this global behemoth. And unfortunately, we've just had endured a tragedy this week, Charlie Kirk's assassination. So we're going to also jump right in and talk about piecing all this together for our audience and really in some ways waking us up to the reality that what we are up against is a massive behemoth and we have to start doing our part. Otherwise, our children will suffer for it. Tina, welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me.
No, you're welcome. Thank you. We're just kind of going through this week of just heavy hearts and just understanding in my mind just how big I would say the problem is. And I'm sure the world is seeing the weight of Charlie Kirk's death and seeing the magnitude of the work that he has, I think, began, but also you have began 30 years ago. So just very quickly give our audience 10,000-foot overview of your mission and vision and what was the beginning of your story from Hollywood actress to now a pioneer in fighting our culture.
Yes, man, what you just said, I have like 10 things I want to stem off of that. I have been fighting the battle and waking up America's teens, youth for about 3 decades. It started when I was 16 myself on a dairy farm in Wisconsin. I gave my life to the Lord. I was walking towards the front of the church that day. It was September 1994. And I remember telling the Lord, I'm willing to take a bullet for the cause. And I think I'm still here today because God has absolutely blocked about 10 attempts where I should have been dead. So Charlie Kirk had a whole different sucker punch for me because he loved the youth of America.
Mm.
And it was exactly and has been exactly why my blood has flowed through my veins for decades. And like I said, I should have been dead 10 times over. And it wasn't so much a person pulling the trigger, even though I was walking to the front of the church at 16 saying to the Lord out loud, I'm willing to take a bullet for the cause. And I've said it how many times from stage speaking to kids all around this globe, interpreters all over the place, South America, all over the US, of course, Japan, Europe. It wasn't a person that has been after me. It's demonic forces that I could write a trilogy on all the different times and attempts of Satan trying to wipe me out. So with the assassination last week, that morning, I sent a message to my husband that is chilling, and I'll be sharing it today on doing an Instagram live, playing it because I had to wrap my brain around what just happened. But I knew something massive and heavy was going to happen that day. I thought that I was going to die that day. About an hour before that happened, I thought I was going to die. I was looking all around, going to meet a friend. I was like, what is this heaviness feeling? And I left him a message, and it's chilling. I said, nope, it's not me personally. It's going to be America. It's going to be the first domino that tips. And I could feel it. I'm having chills right now saying it out loud. So I have absolutely loved the youth of America since I was a teenager, gave my life to the Lord, and bird's eye view, I started doing a ton of research on the globalists at 16, seeing who the key players were, learning about the New World Order, Council on Foreign Relations, the upcoming cashless society, Mark of the Beast, how our government is connected with Hollywood, who the major players are, how the money was funneling around this globe, the banking system, the pop culture, demonic celebrity system, the symbolism in demonic celebrities, the occult, witchcraft, baby sacrifice, and about 52 other topics when I was a teenager. So when the opportunity came for me to transfer from my college that I was going to in Green Bay to Cal State Los Angeles, I grabbed the chance because I knew God was saying, this is your move. And my main reason for going is to become the Christian version of Oprah Winfrey, Christian version of Julia Roberts. That was in my brain at 16. I want to get out there and get
Love it.
celebrities to know the Lord. And I invited a lot of them to church. I did a Miss America pageant. I was involved in Women in Film. I went to the Oscars, worked the Oscars, was a celebrity chauffeur in the Hollywood Hills, had many, many hundreds of interesting conversations, and also worked to talk to kids every Friday night for a number of years at my church that I went to, Oasis Christian Center in Hollywood. And that is a little overview of the dirt that I learned a lot of dirt that I started to connect the dots of, and then started speaking against this demonic agenda from the pit of hell that was attacking our kids, where our kids were believing the identity that Satan was selling them through pop culture. And that started at the age of 20. And I've been speaking now 2.5 decades against and exposing the Satan's plot for our youth primarily, and helping parents navigate today's pop culture.
Wow. That has a lot of depth that you have gone through, a lot of depth at a very young age to even have insight to think through all, I would say, heavy issues at 16. Take me back to that time in Hollywood. What were the things that sort of smack you in the face and say, "Whoa, this is demonic"?
I really need to write a book because there's so
Yeah.
many, and I did keep journals, but a couple of eye-opening moments with was I was saved at 16, so I went out as a Christian. I wanted to make sure that God would be pleased with my decisions, and I wasn't perfect, but there was several times I'm like, what was I thinking working on set, doing that or saying that or wearing that? But for the most part, I was offered roles. Now we're going back 20, 25 years where if I was offered a role where I would have to be scantily dressed or dance around in a bikini with a beer bottle in my hand and I could make 25 grand in 2 hours, I was absolutely saying no because at that time I was so in love with speaking truth to the teens. I did not want to be a hypocrite where they're like, Tina, I just saw you in a beer commercial dancing around in a bikini, and now you're telling us to not do drugs and don't drink. Even though I was legal age and I could have justified my way out of it, I wasn't being a role model. And I wanted kids to see that you can work in Hollywood and rise above the standards of the casting couch crap. And that's exactly what I saw many other people around me doing, casting couch crap. But I also wasn't perfect. You know, I told teens I took this role, I shouldn't have taken it. I was in this pressure situation, or I dated guys and might have went further than I thought or wanted to or felt pressure. There's one time where I could have been raped with a guy that I went out on a date with once. I'm like, I got to get out of this situation. I'm putting myself in a dangerous situation, but I
Mhm.
also felt very pressured, I will say. And that was like 22, 23. But God got me out of that situation, thank the Lord. And I was abstinent, waited for sex until my wedding night. And I told
Wow.
teens that. And I still tell teens
Miracle.
that. It's a miracle. I was 29 years old, and for 9 years running around in Hollywood with an abstinence T-shirt on when I would work on Hollywood movie sets. And then it would spark conversations. I purposely did that because people would then come up and say, "What are you doing? And what's happening here with the shirt you got on? Like no drugs?" I'm like, "Yeah, no drugs, no sex. Never did a drug." So I wanted teens to know you can be in Hollywood, work a lot of different film and TV shows, and still stay on the straight and narrow. And let God use you talking to many people, and I did. People came from soap operas, Disney shows, you name it, to church when I was out there. I would invite them, and some came, some said no, but they were never really nasty to the conversation. But there was one time where I worked on a set when I first moved there. I was going to college at Cal State Los Angeles for film and TV, and I was invited to go work on Austin Powers' A Spy Who Shagged Me. Now, if you look at the scenes, you'll never be able to tell who I was. And I was like,
That was you were in there?
oh, I was in there. I was 115 pounds, gold bodysuit, long blonde hair. They put a wig on me, eyelashes that were like 2 inches long. It was a party scene, no alcohol in my hand, no drugs. But I was asked to come back the very next day, and she gave me, the casting chick, the wardrobe chick, gave me a skirt that was maybe 4 or 5 inches long, leather skirt, told me to put, and I'm like, why even wear it? It's not covering anything. And I felt the pressure. My heart was beating out of my chest. She threw it over the wardrobe deal, and she's like, hurry up, put it on. We need you on set. And I'm looking at him like, and the Lord was plain as day. Do you really want to be wearing that? Are you going to be setting the right example? Is that going to help you with your modest dressing for young girls? I said, heck no. I whipped it back over the top of the door, and I told her I can't wear this. She goes, if you don't put it on, you never work for us again. So here I am, 22, 23 years old, maybe even 21. I've got a brand new agent. The agent booked me on the role, and I'm like, if I don't do it, are they going to drop me? So I had all that pressure, and I felt it many times over. But that was my first aha moment. And I remember whipping that thing over the door, and I said, then I'll never work for you guys again, because I told my agency that I wouldn't do XYZ, because you could fill out what you said you wouldn't do. And I worked it out with my agency after, but I remember leaving that studio parking lot, and the Lord's like, I've got your back. You made the right decision. Trust me, in your career moves in Hollywood, there's something much bigger at play. And I felt a sense of peace come over me. But that was within the first year or two of moving out to LA. And then I met Brittany Murphy on Little Black Book. I was in a scene there. We talked for probably 20 or 30 minutes where the director was coming up to us. Okay, girls, stop talking. We got a movie to shoot. I remember him saying something like that. But we were in this hallway. They were getting the camera set up, and I had a chance to talk to her. At that time, I was speaking pretty much all over America. I'm doing school assemblies. I'm like, hey, and we started talking. She goes, so you know, do a waitress thing on the side? I think it's how it kind of started. I'm like, because a lot of actors did. Said, nope. I actually speak to the youth of America about no drugs, no sex, no whatever, you know. And she goes, oh, tell me more. And I told her, she goes, are you that woman that goes around doing the Hollywood Exposed show? And I'm like, I am. She goes, I heard about you. I'm like, oh, geez. Because she goes, I'm a Christian. I'm like, you are? Because I was going to get into that next. Like, God was guiding her conversation. This is right before she died, which I believe she was murdered. Whole different conversation, different program. But We were talking for a while, and I told her my walk with the Lord, and I said, it's been tough. I've had to say no to different roles. And I said, can I ask you a couple questions? She goes, sure. And I'm like, you just shot the movie 8 Mile with Marshall Mathers. She's like, yep. And I said, that is actually on my current Hollywood Exposed show with the kids. This is going back, 2 decades. And I said, what was it like working on set? Because you did drug scenes, sex scenes. How did you feel? If you're like a Christian, you want to honor God. And I said it nice, but this is the gist. And she said, Tina, every day I left the set, I felt guilty of what I was doing because I knew I was leading teens astray, but I felt like I had to do it in order to get ahead in the industry. Those words burned in my head. I wrote it down on a slide, and I've been sharing that message ever since because that was my aha moment where God had me realize prior to that, I thought it was actors choosing what they want to say, what they wanted to wear, and then myself being in that pressure, I'm like, wait a second, there's much bigger people at play that are using actors as puppets to push their agenda on the kids, because if the kids are owned by the industry and owned by Satan, basically, they're going to succumb to the pressures of how to dress, who to date, what products to purchase. If they get pregnant, they're then running to so-called Planned Parenthood, which has nothing to do with preparing you for being a family. I mean, everything to do with murder. But then your identity isn't based on the mistakes you've done in the past. Many young girls have an abortion, women of all ages, and they don't realize what they did because they're being taught it's a mass of fetal tissue. Why? From the media and our corrupt public education system. They're all in bed together. And so I explained that through high school and middle school assemblies still today. I just got back from 8 different shows in the last 3 months. Kids' eyes totally open up because they see the truth. I'm like, don't let Hollywood celebrities or the corrupt education system tell you that this is just a mass of fetal tissue. Your heart starts beating at 14 days after conception. This is a little baby in the womb. All the body parts pretty easy to see and identify at 10 weeks old. I've been carrying this little baby for the last 3 decades all around America and around this globe. So when they see that when media is pushing, go ahead and grab the fetal tissue, not a big deal, and go to Planned Parenthood and get an abortion that's promoted in film and TV, they see that the sex that is also massively pushed to get girls pregnant then lead to abortions and everybody's making cash. I said, don't let people use your body as income or trash who you are as a person or what you want 3 years from now. You have to think 2 steps ahead. But Brittany Murphy was an aha moment for me because I realized it wasn't so much the actors as it was the directors, the writers, the producers, the bigwigs in Hollywood controlling the puppet strings.
Interesting. Wow. It's your boldness and your courage, Tina, at a very, I would say, young age. It's pretty remarkable what you're able to. It could only be God, because who would think about that level of courage in Hollywood? Is Hollywood salvageable?
That is a wild question because I don't think we can make it Christian again, because it actually started out as Christian based Hollywood Hills. When a lot of Christians left in the 50s and a lot of non-believers, atheists, satanic following Luciferian globalists took over and drove a lot of Christians out. We should have never left, honestly. Is it salvageable? I think people's souls are salvageable. I think the industry itself, it's only going to get darker and worse as the days proceed, as scripture even states. Because right now, as the New Testament states, that Satan is the ruler of the air. And when I read verses like that, to me, it's air as in airwaves, radio, TV, pop culture, mind control. So it's so bad and so dark. At the same time, we need massive Christians in Hollywood to bring truth to the lost. And that's why I went out there. Because if we can get one celebrity saved, we got half the globe. Ariana Grande has 375 million followers right now. 371. She just went down a couple million followers in the last 2 months. But if we can reach one celeb for Jesus, look at the impact that could have around the globe. And then you're going to have all their followers and their fans to start thinking, hang on a second, maybe there is a God.
Yeah.
Which is right now happening because of Charlie Kirk's assassination.
I do think.
Atheists are waking up.
Yeah, which is really profound. My question for you, because I feel like the problem is that our youth are susceptible to Hollywood because they're not fulfilled in their home life, in who they are. They don't like themselves. And I feel like in my mind, can we truly fix Hollywood? We need to replace Hollywood. I don't know if we can fix it. However, I feel like the work that you're doing in going to the youth and what Charlie Kirk is doing is to actually equip the youth with the right thinking and the right skill set. Can that be our focus now so that they're not susceptible to the Hollywood? because I think I really believe, and tell me what your thoughts about this. I really believe that unfulfilled youth are susceptible to propaganda and evil because parts of their life are hurting. What are your thoughts about focusing on that?
Absolutely. That's been in my veins, pumping hard since I was 16. That's exactly what I've been doing. I would drop the bomb on Hollywood, and then the last half of the presentation, I would give them tons of different ways to give back to society, which will give them better self esteem, point them to Jesus, number one, better self esteem, better grades, less habits that are trying to mask the deep hurt and pain. But here's how it's crazy: it might be bad home life, or it might be bad pop culture messages causing them to seek after things that look glamorous or glitzy on the outside that really is not fulfilling on the inside. Then they know that, then it makes them crave more of the wrong thing. So I asked them, what were you born with, and what giftings and talents do you have to make a difference in our culture? What kind of legacy do you want to leave? And I've been saying that from stage for 3 decades. Every single time. I said, if you love photography, get out and do mission work and take pictures of what's going on around the globe, or bring aid to people around the globe. Help the homeless here in America. Serve at a food kitchen. Share with the lost. Find out what's going on with the people, even children on the street. If you have been abused in the past, get involved with a local chapter in your town for sex trafficking. You know what it feels like. You know the red flags. Be an undercover FBI agent for God and help rescue other kids that are currently in it. If you love video games, awesome. Create positive video games. One kid, I was speaking in the San Diego Convention Center about a decade and a half ago. This gives me chills thinking about it. This kid comes around after me. I told him about all the graphic, violent, sex saturated video games back then. The top ones, two or three, don't have to show the violent stuff because half that crowd raised their hands. You had thousands of kids that admitted, yep, even youth pastors, yep, playing it. I said, instead of that, use your time and talents to make positive video games. And this kid came running up after me, and I went for a while on that, like having them think. And the kid's like, ma'am, I'm gonna totally get a bunch of positive video games. I'm gonna create a Bible video game where you can live the different scenes out as a character in the video game through the different people that God used in scripture. I'm like, killer idea, dude. This was like 15 years ago. I'm like, my kids someday will be playing your video games. This is what, then if you are creating something positive, you're giving back in society and knowing you're doing something right, it brings life, it brings love, it brings peace, it brings solutions to today's culture. And that is why Satan is hard pressed to make sure he can ingrain our kids in a demonic agenda, feeding them crap that's lies, scraps from a trash can instead of God's buffet that he wants to give our youth of America to make a difference. Charlie Kirk was a massive wake up call. Are we willing to die for the cause? And what cause did God have us be birthed on this earth for the time that we've got? Let's make our life matter.
Yeah.
If I could skip sleep, I would. I was up till 2 in the morning doing show production last night and getting up 5 or 6 hours later. I wish I could skip sleep. I know I can't. But once you find that calling, you will wish you could clone yourself. And that's where I've been. I now have a team of 15 people by my side. And I'm telling you, we'd never be able to pump out the content we pump out every single week that's being seen by millions and millions of people every month on 40 some platforms, with our TV show, our radio program on 200 stations, our Counterculture Mom app that every parent must download immediately,
Mm.
including teens. If I didn't have a team that also wasn't willing to die for the cause and work nonstop doing exactly what God's called us to do. We go to
Amazing.
God first. What theme, what guests, what series, what order, when do we release it? All of it, because all of it's His.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
if teens can get their vision now of what they can do as a young person, we would have so much less suicide, depression, murder, backstabbing, bad grades, low self esteem. All of that would go away because they have a purpose.
Yeah. Well, here's my question to you because I teach, we have thousands of mothers in our school, and I think part of the issue with the youth is that the mothers are ill-equipped to actually train their children. But when I say ill-equipped, I'm really talking about they don't even know how to process their thoughts. They don't even know how to determine boundaries. They don't even know, they don't have a routine that helps them to fulfill their purpose. They don't know how to say no to themselves. They don't have emotional maturity or command to channel their emotions. They don't even know how to use their imagination for the good. They don't know how to plan, prioritize. To me, I feel like so much of the moms have no capacity to actually equip the parents to say, go find a purpose, go use it for the good, because I think as mothers, we lived in a generation where there was no training. The internet happened, it happened quickly, and we did not receive the, I want to use the word formation, which means the training, the character formation of how to live this world that is now bombarded with so many images. So, what are your thoughts about, okay, so let me just, give you an example. To me, loneliness is a massive problem and it makes youth vulnerable and susceptible. But loneliness is a communication issue. We don't even have basic conversation skills in our education system. We don't have basic eye contact skill. I mean, we're that basic right now. So to me, what do you think about taking even a step lower? And unfortunately, we're kind of down and saying we almost need to really kind of teach some of the most foundational thinking skills, practical skills. We spend $280 billion on our mental health issue every single year to try to fix the person. What about putting that resources into teaching mind management for mothers? What are your thoughts about the need for preparation for mothers? I mean, lots we can go a different direction here.
I completely agree. And I'm trying to think the best way to solve that. And I'm not trying to point people nonstop to our program, but the reason we created the Counterculture Mom Show each week with 4 different episodes is to do exactly what you just said. It's almost like we're wiping the slate clean and
Yeah.
starting over again because so many moms are so fried, overwhelmed. And it'd be different if I grew up as a farm kid. So we didn't have tech. And then when I was in my 20s, we had a pager and I barely used it in Hollywood. The second we got a page, we made a phone call from a payphone, I booked my next role. Um, so technology is what has really thrown a wrench in it as well. Over stressed on scheduling, the issues with trying to navigate making and preparing food that doesn't have 52 pesticides on it. An education system, you're trying to erase 90% of the content your kids just learned when they get off the school bus. You have a problem on every angle. So what we've done in the Griffin clan is we homeschooled our kids forever. The last 2 years, we public schooled them. Said nope for sure. I put the nail in the coffin with my thoughts on public school, and now pulled them back out. They're doing Liberty University Online Academy.
Wow. How
And
old
when
are
I,
they? Sorry, I'm just curious.
yes, 16 down to 12, and we have four. So I had 4 kids in 4 years. I was saying at one point that I started to get my brain back, but I really haven't. Most of those younger years are a blur. But I have to say, when I say pull the kids out, most of them wanted to homeschool again, just because we travel a lot as a family. I speak a lot of different places. Now that the kids are older, they help run the merch table, they help run the events,
Love
they
it.
make flyers. But they're also starting their own businesses. And so when you get rid of the drama of what a public school education typical day is, about half of it's drama, telling the class to quiet down, gathering kids, repeating yourself, all that. But then you also have the education system, which has been massively dumbed down. And now, shockingly, like our show states every week, we give headline news stories and incorporate that. The World Economic Forum is getting their claws in with the UN to rewrite our public school curriculum. So at this point, I'm telling parents, pull your kids out, because we don't want to have our kids learn how to depopulate our own planet, our own country, coming from the UN. That's a whole rabbit trail we could go down. Point is, we homeschool the kids. We have them start their own businesses. All four have a side business that they're doing. We have one cook in the family, one kid that loves taking care of pets, one kid that loves babysitting, and the oldest kid has a lawn care business. So we're having them learn firsthand how to earn a living on their own,
Hmm.
start saving up money, buying what they'd like to get with their own cash so they don't waste their money or not take care of something that we might purchase for them, learning the value of a dollar, learning how to tithe and give back, learning how to make flyers, learning how to advertise, all of that hands on as a kid so they can start their own business. They
Yeah.
are actually already did. But they homeschool. So they get a godly curriculum in half the time with no drama. And then they get to do what they want to do with their friends afterwards. And we have more and more families, friends of ours, that are homeschooling their kids.
Yeah.
That's one way. Then we have a kid that now is learning how to cook, that loves cooking, that now took that, a good chunk of that, away from my duties. I do it with him. My husband also loves to cook, but they're starting to cook for the family, and getting the kids involved in chores around the family. So, and doing things together. I think that's the biggest thing. But the problem is, growing up on a farm, very different lifestyle for me when I was a kid, with now being in the home with all these outside sources. We got two kids, cell phones too early, took them away. Both said, thank you for doing that. My daughter said, because we wanted to keep in touch with her, with when she was in public school, if there's any emergency, text us, whatever, or with her job. But now we have a watch we can track her down on. But the social media went out the window. She has a lot less pressure. We saw way too many issues within 2 or 3 weeks. Not so much of her seeking junk out, but people sending her stuff.
Yeah.
And she'd come to us. So I'm telling you, our Counterculture Mom app helps parents guide the monstrosity of the bombardment. And our programs each week massively help our parents, and they request what they want us to talk on the show. So
Wow, that's so great.
we want to address different issues, topics, all that. Is it doable? Yes. But it comes down to literally putting a screeching halt on everything you're currently doing and asking yourself critical questions on, I've only got so much time in the day. What does God want me to do? What isn't necessary? For example, my oldest kid played football, but he goes, Mom, I'm never going to be in the NFL. I'm not interested in NFL. I want to be a pilot. So he axed football this year. Could he have played? Yes, but it's not where his career is going to take him. So do we really want him to spend 10 to 12 hours a week doing football practice when he could be starting his lawn care business, saving up for his pilot classes, and now he just started classes at the Nashville airport? It's literally not spending time in areas that are not going to be focused on kingdom building, saving souls, saving lives. And mainstream media does a great job on distraction,
Yeah.
spreading lies, and making us waste so much time instead of investing in our own life, our own talents and giftings that God wants us to invest in with time and money, so we can then reach the masses for Christ in whatever area and lane God wants us to be in.
Yeah. Well, it's just such a gift that you're able to give that to your children because they are going to be the leaders of the future. I have two homeschoolers. I have eight total, but we have a really good school system, but and of a classical education. But even then, I'm still really we're in this wrestle of, how long can we keep them there until I feel like they're wasting their talent? And there's slight indoctrination that they're just, what I have a problem with our education system because it's genderless and godless.
Yes.
And because I teach women for a living, we cannot teach boys and girls the same. And we have to own that in our education system. We have to own that in a massive scale, because women don't know how to be women because for the last 50 years, women have been taught how to be men. And so women have suppressed the very nature of their fertility, of their motherhood, their nurturing capacity for the sake of status, which God designed for men. And so women today don't know how to be mothers. They don't have the training that they needed to receive in order to actually be mothers, which is why mothers are overwhelmed because they are underskilled. They literally don't have the basic training of how do you clean the kitchen in 10 minutes and not an hour. I'm like, we have a food crisis, we have a health crisis, and we don't have home economics in our education system. I mean, is that a massive oversight or is that intentional? I would dare say, you probably would say it's intentional. And we're probably going to connect the dots even more after Charlie Kirk's death, because I think what we are now seeing is an awareness of a cohesive plan against humanity. Can you just briefly, because I
Oh
think
gosh.
our audience, and I know as much as we can, bring it together for us from your research to a mom who's like, hey, I'm busy raising my children. I just want to be a good mom, like most Christian moms. So, they're trying to do the noble thing, but we can't afford to put our head under, you know, we have to be aware. What do you want to say to that mom and tell her how much of a cohesive plan is against our children? What are the parts? Like, piece it together for us quickly as much as you
Oh
can.
my gosh. Okay. I'm going to drive you guys back to the programs because we just shot our 900th episode last week. It airs first week of October. We started the show. We launched on Father's Day, June 2021. And I'm just going to give you a rundown of the
Yeah.
programs because it fits together like a puzzle piece. It was on Father's Day, and the Lord told me, sitting right here in this chair at this desk, if you don't start shooting this program today, because Salem Radio reached out and said what you just said on Facebook during COVID, certification of vaccine ID, It's a tracking and tracing program. They want to depopulate the planet. When I say they, it's the Luciferians working for Satan. It's the easiest way I can explain it. They've been ruling this globe for many, many decades. And the Lord said, if you don't pull the trigger and start doing this radio program, it was a radio and TV show, how it launched. He goes, you will now cross over the line of disobedience. Because I was thinking about it for years, because I've been researching these globalists, these elitists, these people who want to depopulate the planet and kill us all off, kill off humanity, except for the few that they believe should deserve to live, which is themselves. It's a small little posse of 13 major bloodlines. And I then pulled the trigger and started the program. I did not know that my previous 25 years or so of researching all these globalists was purposely done for the time that I'm currently living in,
Yeah.
because I knew the dots all connected. So long story short, Satan wants us dead. I'm giving you the overview of the last 900 episodes. Literally, not just steal, kill, and destroy our children, but all of us, all of humanity. The Georgia Guidestones that I researched about 20 years ago had carved into rock. I went there in person. It was in Georgia. The globalists, a couple of key globalists, paid for that construction, that building, that those carved in rock goals. And there were 10, I believe. The top one being depopulate the planet and eliminate down to 500 million people. That's basically getting rid of what, 85, 95% of the population. And they've been doing it for decades, but they put a full force throttle the last couple of years. So it's not just in education. They kill us through chemtrails. I've been research everything I'm sharing about. I have extensive research on, so I'm just going to give you bullet points, but I can preface it by saying watch our show at counterculturemom.com
Yes.
and you'll start putting the pieces together, because this crap I've been researching for 3 decades. They have been putting aluminum and mercury and other heavy toxic metals in our air, spraying it nonstop for decades. And we have video footage and all the experts on their program explaining exactly why they're doing that. They are to get us sick. So then we go in, you have to look at the cycle. Then we go in because we're sick with cancer, and then we're making millions of dollars for the hospital care system. Pharmacy, drugs. Pharmacy means pharmakia, which means witchcraft, sorcery. Look it up. We talk about it in detail on our program. So they want us all medicated. Medications have all these different side effects. They put medications in, and GMOs, for example, that are cancer causing in our food supply. Cows eat it. We eat the beef, or name any animal. And we then get sick. We're then going to, with diseases that they cause by spraying crap in the air and crap in our food and crap in the water that we then take in, and it goes through the animals that we eat. We then get sick. We go on medications. We get sicker until the point where we have surgeries, and then we die. We have certification of vaccine ID, which is, and don't let any of this scare you, by the way, because I know,
Oh, I
like,
don't, it doesn't scare me. I'm with your research.
I,
So
I
maybe
tell
not as in depth.
I tell people, if it's new to you, don't watch it late at night. You might not sleep for the first couple of weeks, but this stuff I've learned to, like, face fear right in the face, not live in fear, share it as fast as possible to save as many lives as possible. I've been doing that forever. So basically, people are getting sick. Cancer causing agents all over the place. We have cancer in our school systems via the corrupt pop culture, and that's now on our, and disgusting suicide deal and ideation and gender dysphoria and changing your genders and everything that's trying to erase the foundational aspect of male and female. Because why? Is pumped in our school systems, pumped in pop culture. Kids are learning this pop culture crap even on their iPads, their Chromebooks now in school, which is another whole host of problems. Indoctrination of our school. Bill Gates had his hands in, his claws in our public school education through the different school curriculums coming out, I believe, in the 80s with Pearson. They're the ones that are behind a lot of the school written textbooks. Research this business. We have Scholastic that now has 95% of their so-called books that they recommend to kids in schools where they have to read it, and for class assignments, it's available in the libraries. Even if Christian parents say, don't worry, we're not going to buy it. Scholastic is still giving hundreds of copies of demonic-filled, violence-filled, rape-filled, threesomes filled, skinning women alive filled. Yes, those are the
What?
content in the
You, I
book.
mean, Scholastic?
Scholastic, and it's in kids' libraries, besides just the gender dysphoria crap that your Christian kids in schools get their hands on in the libraries. They're given as gifts because the other classmates sold so many books. It used to be kitty calendars. It used to be cookbooks of 30 years ago, not any longer. So that's in our education system, besides putting a condom on a banana for the last 3 decades, where kids have condom relay races, where they get to have points for the team that gets to put the condom on the banana first, which then tells what? Go have sex. Every kid's doing it
Not a big
anyway.
deal.
They lower the standards. Planned Parenthood gets a kickback because now Planned Parenthood is out there raking in the money because kids that get pregnant, parents freak out, and it's abortion after abortion. And the kids are told, don't worry, it's just a mass of fetal tissue. So now it's a new birth control method. Get pregnant, no big deal. Go ahead and have an abortion. Kids now want to, they get married 10 years later, they want to have kids. A lot of them can't because of scar tissue. People don't understand the 2 steps ahead. That's the school system. We also have GMO in foods for our kids. That's why the obesity problem is huge. Cancer causing agents in our kids, they're given drugs illegally by counselors that shouldn't be counselors during school hours. And then they have the radiation that's pumping through their veins and their brain and their other body parts through the brick, through the school buildings because of 5G, which I believe till I go to my grave or get raptured, but the Lord told me I would never die, not have a funeral. So I have a feeling it's coming back in my lifetime. That happened when I was 10. Stop me when you want to stop me. And the radiation, which is certification of vaccine ID, who has his clause in that? Bill Gates again. Like scripture says, the gates of hell will not prevail. I really think God might have been talking about Bill Gates. That popped off the page during COVID. So
So
now
interesting to think about that.
now we have Gates buying 5.3 million shares of Crown Castle. Crown Castle is the company that put up all these death towers, while Gates and Fauci, who's never seen a patient in 40 years, who's 4.5 feet tall, rattling off nonstop, that had the AIDS epidemic that killed off millions of people. He was behind that 3 decades ago, reading about that when I was in the Hollywood Hills with research to hear, with file cabinets in my brain with that. Second, I saw him partnering with Gates, partnering with Fauci. I have pictures of them and Obama's together as teenagers. Tons of evidence for years that I've been sharing, so this is not new to me. So now we have Gates buying 5.3 million shares of Crown Castle, telling us to stay home, stay safe, put on a disease-filled mask that lacks oxygen, where we can't get oxygen from the air. Why? Because less oxygen in our lungs. With the radiation that Bill Gates bought 5.3 million shares of Crown Castle puts up the death towers spewing out radiation. Radiation is now blasting us. We can't breathe in a low oxygenated environment. So when people were getting sick with COVID, they were getting sick with radiation toxicity. And I said, if Fauci now says that we're going to lose a bunch of our hair because of COVID, he is a lying person, loser that needs the Lord, is demon filled and possessed, because this dude's trying to kill off the masses. And about 3 days after my post, he now says a new side effect, losing hair. That's because it's radiation
That's just
spewing from the
nuts.
towers, driving people in droves to the sheep to go get tracked and traced via a deadly shot. That now we're going to see massive cancer as a result, that I was warning people 5 years ago. This is what's happening, spewing deadly radiation from these towers. It is a biohazard weapon. It's what I said since day one when I was speaking with Tucker Carlson at an event in St. Louis. And we had a woman there named Orlean Coley. She came on our program and she dissected this beast to a T. We've done about 15, 20 episodes since on the deadly radiation. You might, and this is just, that's just 5% of the shows that we've done. There's also many great programs that are uplifting, that are not death, destruction, and despair. We have every single episode we have, even the 5G deadly radiation, we have solutions to what's going on. But if people don't understand the knowledge is power. Give them the knowledge and then tell them, here's exactly what you do to combat this crap. And somewhere in there, I believe the Lord's going to return. So he's not going to let it get to the point where the planet is wiped, because then there's no one to rapture. And I do believe harpazo is going to happen. He's also not going to let the nanobot, nanotechnology crap that we're going to release first week of October during our 900th episode, wrapping that series with Dr. Carrie Madej, who is a hero of mine. She loves Jesus. She, along with 3 other guests, explained nanobot and nanotechnology to a T in my brain, where these Luciferian, satanic-driven people that need the Lord, if they're even fully human, are getting to the point where they're working for Satan to literally try to destroy our very chemical, physical, spiritual makeup in our DNA cellular structure by having us breathe in and eat nanotechnology to the point where it's creating nanorobots in our body, which will be connected with these demonic, Bill Gates backed, 5G, 10G, whatever they want to pump out, cell phones that, and look at the back symbolism with the apple with the bite out of it. That's pretty demonic. That then connects with the tower to drive us to whoever's left to FEMA camps. And I won't even get into what's at the FEMA camps. So they want to kill us, but God's not going to let it get to a point where we can't make a decision and have free choice and freedom to decide critical decisions to where we're not going to be able to think any longer and Satan's going to own us. So the Lord's got to come back at some point because the technology is to a point where we're a millisecond away from literally having our brains scrubbed.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you're piecing all that together, Tina. And 5 years ago, I would have been like, okay, this sounds a little kooky. Right now, I know it's not. But it's thanks to people like you who are, pushing the envelope of the chemtrails and the vaccines that people really kind of need to open their eyes, like me and a lot of our listeners, and then really asking ourselves, how do we expose evil? Because that's, I think, a problem. A lot of Christians, it's like, let's just do our part. Let's just be good mothers. And I'm like, if we don't expose evil, we're part of the problem. Which is, by the way, I see it more often than I want to as an excuse of fear, I think, of rejection from the reality. So thank you to your courage, and thank you to Charlie Kirk and the men and women of faith who are fighting the good fight amidst the cross of being crucified, canceled, and rejected. So, where can people find you and your podcast, and what should be the way forward for us?
I just want to preface what I just said. It's a lot, and it's only a hair of what we've unraveled and shared through the phenomenal God filled, experienced wealth of knowledge guests that we've had in the program. We just don't grab people and say, what do you think's going on? We have FBI backed, because I've always been an FBI agent for the Lord,
I love
charts,
that.
graphs, pictures, video clips to prove what we're saying, because
Wow.
you can't deny it if an actual celeb is admitting they're demon possessed, for example, or a government document saying they're ready for the zombie apocalypse, which you can't find on the CDC website anymore, but we have that document and we
But
still show it.
they have that? I'm sorry, I'm a little.
Oh, the CDC had a document, not to get off a trail with what you just asked. They had a document that zombie apocalypse, and Todd Callender came on our program 4 years ago and almost fell out of my office chair because I told him, what are your thoughts with the shot? And he talked about the Marburg virus that was in that shot. Go watch our episodes. You can search anything, anywhere for any of the episodes, for any topic. It's so categorized beautifully well because the Lord told us in June, lock and load your shows, all 900 now, on an untouchable server, because I believe we're coming to a time where conservative voice will be axed and wiped from the net. We're very close to that. I'm
Oh,
surprised we still have a voice. So our show you can't tear down. And so, have at it, Satan, because you're not going to touch it. And the Lord told me get it up there now because he said these episodes will be not only seen by millions now, but after I'm gone. And that is insane.
that is an
So
insane vision to
it,
see it that way.
it's almost audible voice, but the Holy Spirit speaking to me. So all to say this, you will love our content. It's not fear driven. God wants us to have the knowledge and the power to know exactly what Satan's plot is, because if we don't know the plot of the enemy, how can we pray against it? How can we protect our families from it if we don't know what the heck is coming at us and how to solve it? These guests give phenomenal advice each and every episode. You'll be like, I knew something was going wrong with our education, but now I have the answer, or now I know I can homeschool. The other issue I want to quickly wrap up to say, is there hope? Absolutely. Who wins? Jesus. We know the end is near just from what's going on. Our end time prophecy series, everybody, you have to watch it next week. I always do an end time prophecy series over the Feast of Trumpets because I wholeheartedly believe the rapture is going to happen over the Feast of Trumpets. And the whole, you don't know the daytime or hour, totally misconstrued in many churches today. That was, you don't know the daytime or hour of the Feast of Trumpets. You have to see the sliver, the full of the new moon, and then they will blow the shofar. This year, first time ever, they're blowing 100 times in the shofar when usually they only blow 99 times. This is getting really, really real. And they already have a peace agreement in place of two-state solution of Palestine and Israel getting together and getting along side by side. What? That happens September 12th. And they plan on implementing it over the Feast of Trumpets. What? I wholeheartedly believe if that happens, if Antichrist is signing a peace treaty with Israel, that is when the clock starts ticking for the 7-year tribulation period. We're getting so close. So, what does Satan want to do too? Distract us with stuff that's going on in pop culture, distract us with lies in the media, with news stories and headline news. Because why? We're not focused on making disciples or sharing to the lost about Jesus, doing more damage for God and the kingdom. We're worried about or doing research on fill in the blank. So, is there hope? Yes. The other issue I want to point out is, yes, moms are overwhelmed. Yes, people are confused. Many people are confused, lost, distracted. Why? Just the battle with the crap in our food, water, and air, it is massively impacting our thought process. The
Yeah.
nanotechnology in our bodies right now, it's very hard for, that's why people are like jittery or they can't think clear or
Yeah.
there's no focus. So we've got to get healthy with our temples to then be able to scratch that slate clean, to then say, God, if we got little time left, how can we be the parents, the spouses, the influencers on the net and on our neighborhood street? It's possible. One step at a time, God will direct every move. He's not going to sit there and say, oh, I'm going to give you 3 weeks to think about that.
He's a loving God, and I know at the end he wins, and we have to I think we have to have our turning point and surrendering the future because like you said, it feels dark and dim, especially after Charlie Kirk. But you give me hope. I really appreciate what you're doing for moms, for youth, for parents, for families, and being a voice of, I would say, prophecy and piecing it together for us that don't have the time to do it. And what I've learned now from Charlie Kirk is that there's people out there that are doing so much good, and we don't often know it right away. And just as you're doing so much good. Where can they find you?
Yes. Thank you for everything you're doing. Hopefully, I didn't talk everybody's ear off, but just God's got this. He wins. There is very little time left. What does He want you to do immediately? And go for it and have your kids watch and be a part of and partake in. Everybody has to do their role. And if Charlie were here today or could say something from heaven today, what would he say? Get busy. You've got this. God's got this. Carry on the legacy, make an impact. Now's the time. Get moving. And enjoy the journey. Don't live in fear. Enjoy it. Because the only regret we're going to have is, I wish we would have started on the dream God gave me 30, 40, 50 years ago. That's the regret we're going to have. Okay. So counterculturemom.com is the website. It'll connect you with how to download our Counterculture Mom app. Any parent, any grandparent, you got to grab it. Get that app, download it now, the Counterculture Mom app. It'll navigate pop culture for you in 3 seconds. So you don't have to worry about the research. We got a team of 15 on it. We'll tell you what to run from as demonic and how to have the conversation with your kids about that and how to switch them over to positive video games, positive TV shows, positive movies, books, everything going in your kids' brains as pop culture. And it's going to absolutely help your kids have a better self-esteem, closer to God, have a mission and purpose, a smile on their face, less depression, eating better. Everything's going to change. I promise you. And the counterculturemom.com website also connects you with our show. Watch every episode every single week. There's 4 of them. They're short for busy parents. They're 22 minutes long. You will absolutely love those shows. That's at counterculturemom.com, or you can tune into our podcast, but our shows show the evidence. We also do a speaking tour. We have a pop culture speaking tour with 20 people. We can do a half-a-day event, a one-day event, 2-day event. It'll blow the door open with pop culture, and kids will be running out of sessions saying, like they just did at the last one, we will never look at porn again, Tina. We will never look at porn again. That's what I want, because I know what kids want to see for evidence. We give it to them. And I also speak all over the country and the globe. So if you want the Hollywood Exposed message, I can come in and drop a bomb in 90 minutes. And I'm telling you, when the dust settles, there's going to be massive change. So all that available. I speak from prisons to cruise ships to school assemblies to parent events, conferences, leadership deal, everything at counterculturemom.com.
Thank you, Tina. You're a woman of courage. I really appreciate you, and you've inspired me today to get moving. To our listeners, we'll link all the show notes and all the information from Tina. Tina, thank you. God bless you.
Yes,
I'm so
thank
grateful
you.
for
Keep at it, woman. You're helping us get the word out there.
you. We're doing it together. Thank you. Thank you, Charlie
Go
from
get them.
heaven.
Go get them, people.
That's right. Our work has just begun. All right. Thank you all. God bless.